Hi, how have you been doing? This is Wayne Yo over at the Old People's Complaint Desk. So, have you been Googling the 10 best places to live in the world when you're retired? The 10 best places to retire in this world. And of course, it's purely economical sense because it's cheaper there. Yes, there are places in this world you can go and live on just your Social Security and be able to afford a house cleaner, someone to clean house. Yeah. Now, you might have to go and live like a local. But, if you got enough money, you don't have to do that. You can go down there and buy $1 million house. Even though every other house around here is $100,000, you can go build one for $1 million and you can go live like a local and hang around with fellow expats in whatever country you're in. That works. And, you come back every now and then to the United States and you go visit the family and friends, and then you go head back down in the summer or something, or the winter, opposite, whichever it is, right? Florida people head north in the summer, and people up north head south in the winter. So, but if you really, really want to consider living in another country as opposed to the U.S., then you can really put a little bit of thought into it, and you can actually end up with something really pretty good. Few people I know that live in other countries, and they hate to be called expats. And let me give you a little taste of how they got there. Well, the first person is well-traveled. He's been all over the place and, used to long vacations, a business owner, so he can kind of make his own schedule and do what he wants. And then, so he has all this information and knowledge of experiences, and he knows where to go when he wants to go and try another country. So one day, all of a sudden, his wife just got up and said, "You know what? After all these years, I don't love you anymore. So I'm going to go live on my own and go climb mountains because that's what I want to do." And now that her last kid is through college, and my good friend put 3 of her kids from the first husband all through the college system, then she decides that she doesn't love him anymore, and poop. And it was just like that. Everything was fine one day. Next thing you know, poof, that's it. So what are you going to do? Go travel. Go travel. Go travel and go meet yourself a nice young woman from some other country. So he does travel, and he likes Turkey. He goes to Turkey and, looks at all the old stuff there. Things there are over 3,000 years old. And he ends up meeting someone who was a nice, fine young lady. And she, came from a good family, very smart on the button. And her family had businesses. And, so they met. And they continued to kept up a relationship over, the years, long distance. And whenever he did get a chance to travel, he traveled back there to Turkey because he liked it. And his friend was there, his partner, who was going to be his mate, more, in some ways. So the relationship was progressing along, and every time he'd get a chance, he'd go over there and learn more about the country and all that. Then the possibility came that, he may end up living there. So they went out and they found themselves a place. Now, she, being a local, knew all about the changing economies of the different sections or regions of her country, and she just happened to pick the one place that is doubling in value for property every year or something similar to that. And so he goes and he buys a place. Now, of course, when he bought it, it really was nothing. It was about a third of the, no, God, am I saying? Well, this was a while ago. So maybe at the time, what he bought was about a quarter of what it would cost to buy an average house in the local market. And, he threw some money into it, and he cut it up nice. And then he was working, and one day he just said, "I had enough of this," and he's retired, and poof, he had a place to go to. Now, since he had already been there for a while, and since he was the paramour or the spouse of a local, he was able to then to go through the residence process and became a resident of that country. Yes, he was a foreign resident, an American citizen. He maintained his American citizenship and lived in a foreign country and was a resident alien of that country. Which means he was able to get into the medical system, saved him some bucks because really, he's just on Social Security and whatever savings he's got, so it saves him some cash. He has more cash out of pocket. The country is now going through some inflation, so where things are getting up in cost, but still, if you want to go take a friend out for dinner and go have, a decent night out, it might cost you $100, whereas it used to cost you about $30 about 10 years ago. Now it's $100. But you know what it's going to cost you in our local area? You ain't getting out of there for at least $250 to $400. Yep. So he's very happy where he's at. He's a resident. He participates in his community. He has a community. He has some roots. And family goes over and visits him. And everybody becomes multicultural because they get out of the country. They get to see how other people live. Now, there's a big difference in going to another country and living in a condo with a bunch of other American expats as opposed to going and living in with a local in a local area and getting to know the locals. And it, of course, helps if you actually take your time to learn the language. If you do, not only do you get to communicate better with people and they'll really like you for that, but it also gives you something to do at your knocking so you don't waste away. Yes, keeps you thinking. So, another case, a friend of mine's off on a vacation and he meets somebody. It's an international, resort area. So he meets somebody from another country. And again, they formulate a relationship and it happens so much much easier nowadays. I mean, look at all, just go online, find somebody from another country, right? And so he fostered a relationship and they did very well together. So they ended up getting married and having several children. Now, the wife was from another country and became an American, was working on American citizenship, but got herself a green card. So she was an alien resident in this country. She has family in another country, so they go and visit the other country. The kids that she had are allowed to have dual citizenship, okay, from Sweden and the U.S., right? Sweden is a member of the European Union. So the kids are Swedish citizens and American citizens and can travel within the European Union within the rules. So what does that mean? That means, hey, let's go to school in Sweden. Why not? Grandparents are there. Let's go hang out with grandparents, aunts and uncles, big family, and live in Sweden. And then when we got to go back to the States, we'll just hop over to the pond, the Atlantic, and go to New Jersey because that's how it works. And then go back to Sweden. Yeah. And so the kids became very fluent in the language and knew the area, plus had very strong ties because of family, actual family. And then the kids, not all of them, but some of them ended up moving to Sweden, had children, and now they got their grandparents sitting over there. So what do the grandparents do? Well, now the guy lives over in Sweden as an alien resident. He's trying to get his citizenship for Sweden as well as the wife's getting her citizenship for the U.S. They have a couple of kids over there, one of them with kids, so they have grandkids. And then on this side of the pond, in this side of the country, in the USA, they have a kid who's got a kid also. So they have grandkids here. So what do they do? What does he do in his retirement? He flies here, he flies there, he flies here, he flies back again. Back over, back over. And plays with grandkids. Yep, for a few months here, a few months there. I mean, everybody's got a little house somewhere, and they've all got a mother-in-law's place, so they're just bopping back and forth, going mother-in-laws, and every time they do go back and forth, they have to because they need to satisfy the resident requirements for each country by being there at least for a couple of weeks each year, not being gone longer than a year. And they take a vacation and go someplace different and en route. So they're going from Sweden to the USA to go see one bunch of grandkids. They'll take a couple, I don't know, they'll go somewhere, maybe to stop in Europe and go tour Europe a while and then go over there and probably end up seeing a kid anyway. And then on the way back, they'll go stop someplace. It might be turning into winter, so they'll go, I don't know, Mexico or something. It's cheaper when you are going and, it's just a little byway instead of going round trip. All right, so that's what they do. They're expats. Don't call them expats. They don't want to be known as expats. They live in other countries. They are retired. They are septuagenarians. And they are married to foreign nationals, people of the other country. It just turns out one of the guys ended up going to the country that he specifically wanted to go to, and the other one just happened to end up falling in love with a woman from another country, Sweden, and there he is. So you see how that works? When do you have to start thinking about living in another country? Not when you're retired. Hey, 2 years later, hey, let's go down to Colombia. We'll live on the Caribbean and we'll get a cleaning woman. No, don't do that. You want to go and broaden things for you. You want to go and make, learn new cultures. You're old, but doesn't mean you can't learn anything, and you want to try to learn other languages. Go! But start working on it maybe 20 years before you start thinking about retiring. So you know what that means? That means if you're a millennial, you go travel as much as you can now so that you have an idea of where you want to go. When it comes time to retire, then you go and move there, retire, become a resident, and you get yourself some help when it comes to healthcare and some other small little things. All right? So that is retiring and living in another country. I am Wayne Yo from the Old People's Complaint Desk saying good night for now. I'll be back later. Bye now.